we'll be hearing these common themes again in March of 2024. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, it's G. You're watching Allastrology. This is the part two to May of 2023. We've got an eclipse. We've got Mercury to talk about, the sun in Uranus, and then Jupiter. There's multiple things happening in May of 2023, and they have a lot to do with the end of 2023, the last few months of 2023. So in this video, we're going to look at it on paper. We're going to look at it astrologically and try to connect the dots and see what kind of a picture we come up with. So let's try to share our screen here. If you haven't seen part one, I've already done like the general overview of the themes that are present. Okay. And so this video is taking the deep dive and looking at some of those main players and seeing them by degrees and the dates and where they're at. And then that way, if you've got your chart, you can look at it and you can figure that out for yourself. If you don't have your chart, hold on. I have to turn some things down here. Sorry about that. If you don't have your chart, if you don't know what I'm talking about and you need your chart or you want your chart or you're just even a little bit curious, comment to me and say, gee, I need help. I don't have my chart. Where do I begin? Right. And then I will get you on that road. If you need a chart, just let me know. So comment to me and talk to me. Tell me what you need. Now, we're going to do the screen share thing. And I just want to kind of give you a warning. This chart is kind of on the busy side. Okay. And I know that's like an understatement. So I don't want you to be too discouraged by this chart. The reality is what you see here, and I don't even know if my head is in this video or if it needs to be. Let me see how this works. Oh, I just totally hid myself. Okay. So whatever. On this chart, we have 3 charts actually. Okay, 3 charts. So this is what a crazy astrologer or a crazy astro geek does. They have a chart because we want to see where things are at, and they're at different dates. And that's why we have 3 different charts. Okay. So the part 1 to this video will definitely help you to listen to it first. But if you feel like you're game and you just want to jump right in here, then come on along with me and let's jump in. I'm going to mark this up. All right. And so some of the things we're first looking at is the first ring, and I'm marking it here. We're seeing that with this first ring, it's May 5th, 2023. Okay. And so you see up here, that's the eclipse. This video isn't to go on a deep dive on the eclipse. Okay. This is the general overview, but because I think it's so significant, some of the other events that are happening, because there's a new moon in May as well. And then we have like a Jupiter thing that I have a chart pulled up for, but I didn't put a label on it. So just follow along with me and only what I point at with the arrow. I mean, if you're like, holy crap, this is too much. So May 2023, we have an event, and that is the inner ring. Okay. So each date will tell you what ring it represents. Like this one is going to be for the middle ring. Okay. So when we get there, we'll go over that. But for right now, we're following this one, inner ring. And with that inner ring, I'm going to take this arrow and I'm going to point it out to you. It's the tiny one. See how tiny this ring is? Right. Very small. So if you can, just only focus on that for right now. And this is an eclipse, and this is a lunar eclipse. So I am going to, I'll leave this arrow right here pointing at that ring. I'm going to change colors real quick, and the color change will show you where the eclipse is at. Hold on. I've just done a whole bunch of things I probably shouldn't have done. Yeah, I'm just trying to finagle myself with this Zoom stuff. And we're just going to go ahead and we'll do green because we are having an eclipse, and it's kind of small, but it's at 1458. So here's the moon because it's a lunar eclipse. You see that? There's the moon. It's a lunar eclipse. Yeah. 1458. You see it? really tiny, in the sign of Scorpio. So this is a 15-degree eclipse, all right, in Scorpio. Now, anytime we have an eclipse, you always pay attention to the opposite sign of the eclipse, and opposite of Scorpio is Taurus. So in your chart, you're looking for 1458 of Taurus and Scorpio, okay? So just keep that in mind. And then also, if you don't even have a chart, just pay attention to the degrees I'm talking about, 15 degrees, all right? Now, when we have an eclipse, it's typically going to be an ending and a closure of some sort. A cycle is closing because it's an eclipse and it's lunar. So that's what lunar means. It's the moon. And anytime the moon is involved, it's some sort of a release and an ending. And usually the public is involved in some way, in feelings and family and feminine energy, because it's women, but it's in Scorpio. So what rules Scorpio? Mars, right? And so that's as deep as I'm going to go with this. Well, we'll say Mars and Pluto, okay? So we've got that part down pat, right? We're having an eclipse at 15 degrees. Think Mars, think Pluto, and think of releases and endings, Scorpio energy, all right? And Scorpio is our shared values, okay? Now we're moving on to the middle ring, and that's May also, because there's a new moon in May, okay? There's a new moon. And again, I'll have a separate video for that. I'll have a separate video for each event I'm talking about where we'll see just that chart alone. This is the overview, right? So let me change my color here real quick. We'll just go to the black color for that, all right? So a new moon is the middle ring, right? The middle ring. So I'm going to use that arrow to go to the middle ring. And so that's this ring right here, okay? Yeah, I'm kind of getting a little wild here. Just bear with me because there's a lot going on here. So that's the second ring, the middle ring. Okay. And I'm going to move this arrow and have it a little bit more like here, because that's the first ring. And then that was the eclipse. Actually, I can move this arrow too. We'll do it like that. We'll just back it up a little bit. Okay, fair enough. All right, so here we go. Now, because it's a new moon, we know that's going to be the sun and the moon together. Okay, so let's go find that. Where do we see the sun and the moon together? Follow me in Taurus energy. Yeah, so you're hearing Scorpio, you're hearing Taurus. And look, here it is, the middle ring. It's all the way over here. It's all the way over here. 28-25. So a 28-degree new moon, which you know is a new beginning in Taurus. Right. So already we know Taurus is my values, right? And Scorpio was our values. And we were talking about something ending and a release of some sort. And sometimes taxes are involved with that, right? Because it's Scorpio energy. And that was that eclipse at the beginning of May. So then there's a new moon 2 weeks later in Taurus energy. And Taurus is banking and finances and what I value and who I value. And it's our creature comforts. It's creature comforts. It's an earthy energy. Okay. Now, something I want to take a look at before I go any further is on this second chart, on this middle chart, I'm going to change my color here real quick so that we can see this. And we're going to do like, I guess we'll do this. No, let's do purple. It's easier to see, and purple because we're looking for Mercury. Yeah, Mercury is a big deal here. All right. I didn't point it out in the first chart, which would have been May 5th. Okay. But look, in that first chart, you see Mercury is red there. Mercury went through a retrograde. Right. Again, I'll have a separate video up. But see the Mercury at 850 something or whatever. Mercury's retrograding, and it's not even done retrograding yet. It goes back to 5, almost 6 degrees. Let me double check on my work. It is 6 degrees. It's 5 degrees and 51 minutes. Mercury goes to 15 degrees in the sign of Taurus and retrogrades back to 6 degrees in the sign of Taurus. So far, we've already heard another 15 degrees in Taurus coming up, right? Yeah. We mentioned 15 degrees earlier when we saw that we had an eclipse at 15 degrees in Scorpio. And when we have an eclipse, we always pay attention to the opposite side of the eclipse, 15 degrees in Taurus, right? And so right now I'm pointing out that Mercury, in its journey, it got to 15 degrees of Taurus and it went retrograde back to 6 degrees. And so you see here, May 5th, it is still on that journey. It is still on that journey. Now, when we go to the middle chart, we see Mercury is done retrograding. It just started moving direct again. It went back to 553 or 551. And you see how it's at 637 here and it's in black. So it's moving forward, right? This is 2 weeks later. So Mercury's doing that, and that's important to know. And we're also going to take a look at, I'm going to change the colors here. We're going to look at Uranus. And we're just going to go orange because I don't have any other colors. I mean, I do, but I don't know what it shows up good on the recording. There's Uranus at 19. Okay. Uranus is at 19 at that time. Now, Uranus is at 19. The moon and the sun are having a new moon. Okay. And then we got to just take a real quick peek at Jupiter. Okay. Jupiter is what I want to really kind of focus on a little bit here. Mercury and Jupiter. Jupiter's at 0 degrees, 040 in Taurus. So Jupiter just entered Taurus energy, right? Just entered Taurus at the beginning of May, okay? So we're just keeping all these things in mind because it's Jupiter, which is I add to things, right? It can exaggerate things, right? It can expand upon things. So it's expanding upon our values. And we think about the banking system, okay? Money, our values in general. So this can be the earth, our food, our creature comforts. And we all know about inflation, right? We all know, like we've all been, this has been a global thing that we've been dealing with. Okay. All right. So we've got that going on. We were paying attention to Mercury's journey. We see now that Jupiter is here. We look back at the very first chart, right? And Jupiter was where? Jupiter was still in Aries at 2726 at the first chart, and that was at the beginning of the month of May. You see that? That was at May 5th. Jupiter was still at 27 degrees in Aries. And so this second chart at Jupiter 0 degrees is May of 2023, but it's more specifically, I'm sorry, I didn't realize it wasn't in a big for you to see. It's May 19th. May 19th. Jupiter enters into Taurus, although it was earlier because it was actually, it's already at 040. So let me just underline that in case you guys are looking and you're like, hey, where's that date? I'll underline this one over here too for you guys. Can't believe those lines are almost straight. That's amazing. All right. So now we're going to go to this outer chart, and let me change the color real quick. And I'm just going to go to red because I know it's easier to see. It's not to freak anybody out. So this chart is May, I'm sorry. No, this chart is March. March 23rd, 2024. Oh, this chart is an outlook. Look at that. 2024. 2024. That's a big jump, isn't it? It is. So let me move this around a little bit so that we can take a look at the outer ring. All right, we'll put that arrow there. So this is 2024, and we're going to be looking at Jupiter. Do you see the degrees Jupiter is at? Right. That's when my bells and my whistles and my flags were going off, and they kept saying, pay attention to Jupiter, pay attention to Jupiter. Because here we are, Jupiter is in March 23rd of 2024. Jupiter went through a retrograde and has completed its retrograde. This is a look into the future. Jupiter has already, it began a retrograde in 2023 of September 2023 is when Jupiter began its retrograde. And so it finishes its retrograde and gets past its shadow zone, which simply means the area that it retrograded through. Okay. And remember in the beginning of the video, I said that Jupiter was going to be retrograding the same degrees, traveling and retrograding through the same degrees that Mercury was now in May of 2023. I know, right? March 23rd, 2024 has finished its retrograde, and look where it's finished its retrograde at 1537. Okay. So this 15-degree mark, even Vesta is at 1514 on this second chart. And this is May 19th of 2023. So, and that's, yeah, May 19th, the new moon. And then here we see Jupiter finishing its retrograde at that degree. And it's in Taurus energy. So there's things here, there's common themes about our money, our values, possibly banking, and possibly digital events. Because when we go to May 7th, right? May 7th, see how this chart, the first one in the middle, I'm sorry, the very inner one, you've got May 5th, right? And I know it's hard to see, so I'm going to move some things around here. Let me back some of these arrows up for you guys. If you take a peek here, I'm going to use the red to draw this for you. But if you take a peek, you're going to see the sun on the 5th of May at 14 degrees, 1458. 1458, that sounds familiar, doesn't it? Because it's the eclipse, right? Right. But what else is important? 2 days after the eclipse, that sun is going to be conjunct Uranus. It's technically conjuncted already at this eclipse. You see that? The sun is conjunct Uranus. It's got like 3 degrees for it to be conjunct. Because Uranus is at 18, right? So you've got the sun and this eclipse at 15 degrees in Taurus. You've got Mercury traveling, doing a retrograde from 5 degrees to 15 degrees in Taurus, and Jupiter doing the very same thing, traveling and doing a retrograde from 5 to 15 degrees in Taurus. So all the same things are going to come up again. And Jupiter adds to things. So just keep that in mind. So what do you think this may mean? If Jupiter can add to things, it's almost like it's a really good possibility. There may be an influx. There's going to be a change. There's going to be a time when Jupiter in that north node in June, right? The beginning of June, the very end of May, where there's going to be Jupiter and the north node conjunct each other. So we are already aware that there's going to be some sort of a thing about the future of our money happening, right? And with this current event of when I'm recording this video right now in March, and the release and the recent like run on the tech banks, and I should say like they were insolvent, I guess is the word they use. And the government had to come in and had to say, FDIC had to come in and say, yeah, we're going to insure the deposits. So don't worry. Everybody's saying the same thing. We don't know if this is like contagion, if this is like systemic. Is it in the system, and isn't it going to affect local banks? And so far they've all said the same thing, as far as I can tell, which is no, don't be concerned, right? But I think there's a bigger picture. I think there's something bigger going on. And so let's go look at Pluto really quickly during this 3 different timelines. For Pluto, I'm going to stick with the red again. I'm going to use my one arrow. So the first event, May 5th, Pluto was at 021 in Aquarius. And you heard me mention that Aquarius energy squares Taurus energy. It also squares Scorpio energy, right? For those of you who may have something at 0 degrees in Taurus or Scorpio, that Pluto is going to be squaring that, right? So that can be uncomfortable. It can be stressful. And this is some sort of a major thing, but you're looking for the house number that it's in for yourself, okay? But remember, Pluto changes and transforms. And remember, this is tech. This is tech, all right? Now, the second chart is May 19th, and here's Pluto retrograding, which makes sense because it's retrograding here. So it's 021. This one, Pluto's at 017. It's going backwards, which explains, we see this Pluto's already direct, and it's a full year later. This is 2024. Pluto is still around the same degrees, 143. Remember, with the minutes, that's what matters with Pluto. Those minutes really matter. All right. So you're going to look at the videos. I have a lot of them up, going through the degrees, every degree of Aquarius. And that helps break down the meaning for you. And when you know what house number it's in for you in your chart, you get more understanding. But make no mistake, Pluto squaring Taurus, squaring Scorpio creates stress and tension. All right. And this can be friends and group energy. And then look to see what house number that's in for you. But remember, at the beginning of the video, I mentioned Aquarius energy is big. It's a big system. It goes beyond corporations. It's kind of like who oversees corporations. It's kind of like I was saying, the international monetary whatever that oversees all that kind of stuff. Because again, I'm not like a money person. I don't know all those terms and stuff, but you tell me what those things are. And that's what Pluto, it looks like that's what Pluto is doing. So because it's going to be squaring, look at on the second chart, Jupiter at 0. See this Pluto at 0? Yeah, they're squaring. They're absolutely squaring. And again, that second chart is May 19th. Now, this doesn't mean like run for the hills, run to the banks. No, it just means be prepared to likely hear some information or some bits of news for something changing and transforming, right? And it may have something to do with, who knows? There might be legislation for Bitcoin. There may not. Maybe the banks come forward and they say, no, absolutely not. That's not something that we want to embrace. And they're kind of try to put a stop to it, right? There can be taxes involved. There can be new tax laws involved. There can be new oversight involved, right? But the thing is, for you in your own personal life, right, you're trying to figure out, well, what does this have to do with me? You can figure it out when you know where all your Taurus energy is, where all your Scorpio energy is, and where all your Aquarius energy is. So I am going to grab a color here and pray that you guys can see this. And I'm just going to go ahead and pick my green again, because it's kind of bright. So I'm going to draw the big T square, because that 15 degrees of Taurus and 15 degrees of Scorpio is a big deal. It's a big deal. There's a lot that happens. There's a lot that's going on. And between 5 and 15 in your chart of Taurus or Scorpio, see, do you have planets? See if you have a house cuspine. You may not have anything at all. So it's not a big deal. It won't be such a big deal in your life, that means. Okay. And then we're looking at Scorpio. I'm sorry, we're looking at Leo and Aquarius at those 15 degree marks, because that creates this great cross that I've drawn. You see that? And so all that means is you could expect challenges and tests and things being difficult, and then like uncertainty sets in, right? And so just see what number house that they're in for you, because it may not be anything major. But we do know, because of the Mercury retrograde that's going to be coming up, that things are going to be changing. Even if somebody says, okay, this is how this is going to be right now, it's going to change. And then we're going to hear the same themes come up again in 2024, because Jupiter is going to be going through those same degrees. But this time, Jupiter is going to be expanding on them. So when Jupiter expands on something, it may be expanding upon how we value the earth and all the earth themes, right? Whether it's climate change or just whatever, but it's more material and tangible because it's Taurus. And so it can literally be money in the bank, and it could be some sort of an expansion on that. Like, does that mean they're going to be feeding the system? They're going to be giving money. They're going to be doing, because everybody wants to prevent like recessions and things like that. So when Jupiter enters Taurus, it's almost like there's an influx of values. There's an expansion of values. Okay. And because of the presto changeo that's going on with the Mercury and those same degrees, and then Uranus being involved in that eclipse, it's an ending to something, some old way of something that we've just had around for a while, right? And then a beginning of something new. And I realize this seems really scattered. I can feel it and I can see it. And the uncertainty, it seems really scattered, right? But here's one last thing I'm going to take a peek at here, and this is going to be Venus. Venus is over here. And so this is the May 19th, 2023 chart. We have Venus going through the sign of Cancer. Okay. And Venus can also represent what we value and who we value. So whether this is women or feminine energy, whether this is the public, because that is also the sign of Cancer, our feelings and our emotions and our family, but also our greater family, the public. Okay. And then this could be how the public feels, the public sentiment. What is the public's opinion over our values and our money? That can be there too. So when we go into the previous month, I know this seems like I'm going everywhere now, but look, Venus was in Jupiter. I'm sorry, Venus was in Gemini, which was news and information. And she's getting close to the critical degree on that first chart. And again, that first chart was the eclipse energy, the lunar eclipse. So it's news about our values, news about what we value and who we value. Is it the news that we value? Is it what we once thought was news? Is it social media? Right? It can be all these things and more. If you want clarity, because I've presented so many degrees and talked about so many different things and so many different timelines here, just comment to me and I can help you out in any way that I can and try to make sense of all this. But this was just to try to give a general overview of May of 2023 with the understanding that we'll be hearing these common themes again in March of 2024. And then likely even sooner, because it's Jupiter going slower and covering the same degrees that Mercury did its retrograde. Okay, so this was just to kind of give you like a peek into the future and a heads up and see how what's happening then, we can get a foreshadow when we pay attention to the right now, to the May of 2023. Okay, so some of it isn't written yet. Some of it we don't know, and so there might be some concerns, and we're just kind of trusting and having faith, but thinking and talking and communicating and reprioritizing and remembering what it is and who it is that we value and what do we need for our future. What do we need going forward, and who do we want in our life? So I think I've probably gone on too long. I don't even know how many minutes this has been, but if you got any questions, just put them down below and I'll take care of you. See you in the next video. Bye-bye. Below the video, I'll have all the degrees for those of you who like to pay attention to the degrees in your chart. Again, if you don't know and you want to know, just comment below.